Hello, my name's Charles Gilb. I am a co-founder of Progressive Produce Company, and I want to congratulate them on their 40th anniversary of the Progressive Produce Company being in business. And I'm glad I'm still alive, as a matter of fact. Progressive Produce Company started in 1967, and I'll tell you how it started. I was in the brokerage business, and my office was up in the terminal building in the old market. Nace Cohen was working for Art Knox at that time, and he had come up from Mexico. He was farming in Mexico, and he'd come up to Los Angeles, and he was working for 2 or 3 jobbers, and he decided that he wanted to open a produce house, a jobbing business. He came up and talked to me and asked me if I'd like to be his partner. So we thought about it, and he told me what his ideas were, and I said, okay, fine. So we organized Progressive Produce. How we got the name Progressive Produce, I'm really not sure, because we had all kinds of names that people wanted to submit to us, what the name of the company should be. But Progressive ended up as the business. We started out on Wholesale Street, which is just behind the 6th Street business over on the other side, and we had a building that was well run down. As a matter of fact, the second week we were in business, we had a hell of a rainstorm, and there was more water inside the building than there was outside the building. But we survived that, and after we had a chance, we were able to move over to the 6th Street. That was very interesting because we had all of our equipment and machinery in the building where we were, and we had to move it. On a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we shut the building down, moved all of the equipment and all of the grading equipment, everything we had, over to the 6th Street building, and opened up for business at 4 o'clock on Monday morning with all of the equipment running. It was a mad and wild weekend. The Progressive Produce Company was a very interesting start. The first thing we did at that time, all of the potatoes were coming in town in 100-pound bags. The one thing good about the 100-pound bags were you could sell used bags at that time for 22 to 25 cents each. So you got some of the money back that it cost you to run these potatoes into 10-pound bags. And 10-pound bags were very popular at that time. Not many 5s, but a lot of 10s. And there was a lot of chain stores in town that used 10-pound bags. They didn't like the 100-pound bags because they didn't have the help that could really carry these things. So we bought a Spudnik out of Blackfoot, Idaho. Nobody had ever had one before, to bring bulk potatoes into Los Angeles and take them out of the trucks on these Spudniks. Now, until the time that the Spudnik arrived, we had to unload these bulk trucks. So what we did was we unhooked the tractors and we put the forklifts in front of them and lifted the trailers up and sort of let them roll out of the truck. And then when the Spudnik came in, we were able to unload the trucks and save all of the cost of the burlap bag to start with. As a matter of fact, this is about the time that cartons and potatoes were just beginning, and that was because the 100-pound sacks were very difficult for people to carry or to lift. As a matter of fact, I was back in New Jersey one time, and it was in the middle of winter, and a load of potatoes come into town, and they couldn't find anybody to even unload it because nobody could lift it. There wasn't enough strong guys around to lift 100-pound bags off the floor. That we really kind of started the movement of cartons and into the chain stores at that time. When taking the potatoes, we made sizes on the grading machine, and we made 10-pound bags, and we sized out, and that's what started the carton business in town. And another thing we did was very innovative. We built a big room and saved the loads that came in the afternoon when we were not able to unload them, so we have something to start with on the next morning. The crew started at 4 o'clock every morning, and we always had supplies there because we kept them in a big bin, the extra trucks, so that we'd always able to do start and run. We didn't have to shut down and wait for trucks to arrive. We always kept our supplies that way. At that time, the sales company had Nace Cohen and Ralph Boucher and Chuck Johnson and Arlen Inman. That's an interesting story too. Ralph Boucher was a buyer for Alpha Beta at that time, and he was manager of a store, one of their stores in in Pasadena. Chuck Johnson was his assistant, who's now at Hellman Produce. When Ralph left, Chuck Johnson took over the store. When we hired Chuck, Arlen Inman took over the store. Then we hired Arlen for the same store, so we kind of decimated that store. But we had people that knew what the chain stores needed. They were interested in our business, and they were very interested in coming onto the wholesale produce market. In the office at that time, we had Harold Ege was there, Amiko Nakata was there, and Patty Kimura and Bill Kawasaki. They ran the office. We had to have somebody in charge of each department. We put Frank Heraldis in charge of all of the equipment. Raphael Morgan was in charge of the grading. Freddie Weldon was in charge of distribution, and Earl Gabbett ran Pathfinder Trucking. We decided at that time to get a trucking company, and we leased a couple of trucks. And when we found out how much it cost to replace the clutches, two of them, we decided we would just hire the tractors and we have our own trailers. Pathfinder Trucking was named after Nace Cohen, who was in the parachute division of the United States Army during World War II, and he was a Pathfinder, which is the man that gets out in front of the group to begin with and tells you where the enemy is. So we called it the Pathfinder Trucking Company, and that's how it was named, by the way. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I think also the innovative ideas that we had at Progressive are now standard in the produce business. 100-pound sacks you can't even find them hardly anymore because everything is in cartons, and that was because the chain stores use these cartons to stack on their trucks going out to their individual stores. And with the oranges in boxes and all the everything else in boxes, it was difficult to put a 100-pound sack on a truck, but it was very easy to put our 50-pound boxes and store them on the trucks at the same time. Progressive was very successful in all the years that they started. We started in '67 until the time we ended up selling it. And it was a sale to Chiquita at that time. And now that's all back again, and there's a new group running it, and they're doing a very fine job. But I want to tell you something, the early days of this business was really kind of interesting. We went through all of the hell that everybody got. When there were strikes in town, we took our trucks and delivered to all the stores, and which is what they're doing today. But I want to tell you something, Progressive has done a fine job. They're doing a very good job at the present time, and I wish them all the success in the world. Thank you.